You know, Dan, I'm not on the details of what's happening in Orlando, as certainly either of you gentlemen. But one thing I have noticed is that by design, and maybe this is a post-COVID thing, they've not returned to those pre-COVID levels. And that's by design to keep the park, you know, at least somewhat bearable and commutable for those who are there, even if they're paying through the nose. So in other words, not that it's a, you know, wonderful experience, but less of a taxing one, just getting from ride to ride, event to event, even if you, as I say, you're paying more. What do you think of that strategy?
Well, I think Gary's right in terms of it's all about measuring demand, right? Because the market is ultimately going to dictate what Disney and other forms of entertainment can charge. Listen, let's look at what was going on with tickets for Taylor Swift or Bruce Springsteen. Thousands of dollars through Ticketmaster. Now, those prices would not be charged, Neil, if people didn't have the money to spend. I don't know about Adele tickets. They're probably out of my price range, Neil, but I'll leave that one to you. But still, people are spending. So what does that say? Well, the demand is going to stay there. And then what happens? Are we really getting more supply out there? A little bit more. And that's why inflation is going to stick around for quite some time still.
You know, I think he's right about that, Gary, so maybe Dan should change his mind, because this demand on the part of the consumer to pay still higher ticket prices, higher resort prices, higher Disney World land prices is indicative of a consumer that hasn't completely lost his or her steam, because restaurants are booked solid, theaters are booked solid, Broadway shows are booked solid, again, depending on the show. But my point is that if we're in a world of hurt or just moving toward a recession, we have a funny way of showing it thus far. That's all I'm saying. What do you make of that?
I think we're still in that arena of people just wanting to get the heck out, travel around the globe, go out, because we had a long time, you know, sitting in. So I think that's a component of it. I'm going to continue to say my big worry right now is two little things, and it's charted. You can find it anywhere. Savings rates are plunging and credit card usage is skyrocketing, and I just wonder how long that's going to last. Right now it is, and I can tell you here in Central Florida, I was up in New York City last week, restaurants were packed, businesses brisk right here. If you try to travel in and around the Disney area, it takes about a half hour to go 3 miles on I-4. It's so packed. So, so far, so good. But again, credit card usage skyrocketing and savings rates dropping like a rock. Eventually, that's going to hit a wall.
Well, Gary, you should try what Dan does. He has a SWAT team of VIP guides to sort of take him away from this craziness. Dan, where do you see things going right now? I mean, eventually the consumer has been ratcheting up a little bit more debt, so far able to balance it, so far. But where do you see that going? Gary clearly has worries. Do you?
Well, yes, it's absolutely a worry, particularly with credit cards, because you have interest rates going up and people don't seem to be afraid of continuing to swipe away and will worry it about another time. You know, with the Fed having a 2% target for inflation, I just don't see that happening, Neil. What I think is going to happen is, particularly because of the job market, wage inflation, still a tight job market. We still have 10 million job openings out there, which means that you still have employers really looking to get people to work. I think because of that, inflation's going to stay high because businesses have to pay for those workers. Now, ultimately, what comes out of that is inflation can't possibly get to that 2% because the wages are not going to drop. So I think we're going to end up getting numb to inflation, and inflation's target is going to be maybe 4 or 5%, and that's how it's going to be.
We shall see. Dan, final word. I want to thank you too, Gary. Gentlemen, always good to have you on.